This is being young. The days of endless summers.
Vulnerability's hard.
We had a permit. We had a plan. We went.
I think that about sums it up.
Core experiences that I know fundamentally shifted who I am as a person.
And I was like, are you okay?
I wasn't.
In hindsight, I would do things completely differently.
Is it yither?
Is it yonder? Welcome to Yither and Yonder.
Welcome to our latest minisode, where we take the time to go down rabbit holes, off on side trails, and make the massive digression.
Winnemucca. Or as we came to know it, Winnemurder.
Winnemucca.
Winnemucca for sure. Winnemucca, we mentioned in our episode on Half Dome.
We did.
Because that was the first of many tales where we peeled out saying, never again.
Yes, another place that a Southern woman was not meant to die. Whether that's South Carolina or Southern California.
Or on the side of Half Dome.
Yes.
Winnemucca, Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Las Vegas is in the bottom, I'll call it the slice part of Nevada, right? It kind of comes down to this little slice between Arizona and Utah, with California on the west side. Reno is at that nice corner of the shift to fit into the California little slice. Winnemucca is in the top middle of the state. It is due west of Salt Lake City and kind of in the middle of Nevada from the east to west. It's on the west side of middle.
Yeah. And we were on a road trip. We were coming from somewhere and going to somewhere. It's very descriptive, I know, but it's important because we were on a road trip and we were camping that road trip, and we decided that we didn't want to camp that night. So we were going to get a hotel. And at that point in our lives, not camping and getting in a hotel meant a Motel 6. And the closest Motel 6, because this was late at night, we were very tired, was in Winnemucca.
So we were doing our road trip through Colorado, trying to go visit your brother.
Yes, yeah.
This is the same summer as the JMT. This was our first of 2 road trips. And we went from Eugene through Idaho to go to Yellowstone. We did Yellowstone and we did Grand Teton. We came down to Rocky Mountain. We tried to see your brother, didn't get to see him.
Yep.
And then coordinated our road trip that went through Phoenix to see him in Phoenix later. That was our second road trip, kind of our pre-0 day going into the JMT road trip. We were going to go back to Oregon to pick up my office mate to go camping in Mammoth. We were going to circle and come back to Oregon, and we were in a Taco Bell. Shocking, I know. We were in a Taco Bell, and she texted me and said, I threw my back out. I don't think I can go camping.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it's last minute, but I can't do it. And you and I looked at each other and we were like, so we don't have to go back to Oregon? Where else can we go? And we decided to go through Utah. Didn't we go to the least known national park in Utah, Capitol Reef?
Yeah, that was that trip.
We ended up pivoting from Colorado. We had to go through Utah anyway. And we were like, screw it. Let's go through Capitol Reef and kind of get that part of southern Utah. But then we needed to go. We went up to Salt Lake. I remember us stopping at a rest stop just to see the Great Salt Lake.
Yes.
And then we were driving across Nevada trying to get to Reno. And, anyone that's been to Nevada, there's not a ton in the state. It's big. It's kind of like a desert Montana, it's open sky country. There's just a lot of nothing and beautiful kind of high deserty landscape. But we were driving from Salt Lake and we thought we were going to be able to go camping. We didn't have a place that we had picked at that point because we didn't expect to be camping at that point. We were supposed to be back in Oregon and driving back down the next day. It was kind of our free day that we had re-inherited. And so we were like, well, where should we stop? It was August, beginning of August, maybe
Yes.
July.
Yeah.
It was summer and it was hot.
Yes.
And we were looking at campsites and they were all like no shade, not high elevation, middle of nowhere. And we were like, it's going to be miserable. I'm not going
Well-
to sleep if it's 85 degrees.
Yeah, and they were all like, and this is no shade to KOAs, but they were all like KOAs that were all like RVers and
Yeah.
meant for RVers, and it was not the vibe.
Because it is not a place that human beings belong sleeping outside at that time of the year. So
Yeah.
it really was catering to people that had some place that could be air conditioned to be able to go in and get relief from the heat. As we were driving through, you were kind of looking on like rec.gov and trying to see what was available. And we were like, do we just want to get a room? And Motel 6 was, when we say get a room, it was Motel 6.
Yeah.
Because poor grad students, we need the cheapest option. Neither of us knew much about that area in Nevada. And we were like, Reno is really far away. And you had the app or the information to know there was a fire. And we didn't really know much about it. But you were like, yeah, it looks like there's a fire kind of out that way. I don't know. You were looking and you were like, well, what about Winnemucca? It's halfway between where we were and where we were hoping to end up, which was Reno. That was our goal initially. And we're exhausted. Our backs hurt from sitting in the car, from doing a lot. I think we did this road trip in like, 7 or 8 days. I think we ended up driving like 6,000 miles this road trip.
Yeah, it was
In total.
long car days. Long car days.
There may have been a time or two where we went in the wrong direction for something like Taco Bell. And we may have made those choices that made it longer, but it was worth it. So yeah, at this point, we're like, this is what we know. Here's how we're feeling. You said there's a Motel 6 in Winnemucca, and it's only like $70 a night, which probably should have been a red flag. We figured, why not? Right. And I think there was like, it was, and who knows how accurate these things are, but I remember it was like, there was one room left or something. And you were like, should I just book it? And we booked it. And we were both like, oh, it's going to be so nice. We'll get in towards the end of the day, but it won't be like the middle of the night. We'll have the evening to kind of relax and decompress. And then tomorrow we'll be able to get through Reno and into the Sierra, which was like, you know, always the cherry on top. Like at that point, we're like, just get us to the Sierra.
Yeah. There was only one room left. And I really didn't think that much of it because during fire season in Oregon, it's really not uncommon for hotels to book up so quickly. So I'm like, oh, there's a fire in the area. Oh, all the hotels are booked. Oh, there's only one room left. We should book it.
Again, Winnemucca is small. I'm looking as of the 2020 census, the city had a total population of 8,431 people. So small town, kind of truly in the middle of nowhere. That the Elko is east of it. Reno is southwest of it. If you're looking at a map, it is a spot in what looks to be like a whole lot of nothing country, right? Like truly wide open spaces, not a ton of infrastructure, right along Interstate 80. We get there.
So we go to check in and there's, I don't know, a young man behind the counter. I say young man because he was probably our age. And she goes something to the effect of, the room that we have put you in, the AC is out. Hope that's okay.
Mind you, it's like 100 degrees outside.
Yes.
We're in the middle of the desert.
And yes. And I'm like, immediately, not okay. Because I struggle with temperature regulation even before menopause. And now I really do in menopause, but I wasn't in menopause back then. But I was so over being hot at this point because it had been so hot behind the windshield, greenhouse effect and whatnot. And I was like, well, your website didn't say that the AC was out in this room. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, this is all I have to offer you. And I was like, you don't have any other rooms where the AC is not broken. And I like kind of drill into this guy a little bit. And he's just so adamant that there's only one room and the AC's broken. And I just sort of like lean back on my heels and I'm like, well, I don't find this acceptable. And just deadpan.
She calmly and directly was like, I don't find that acceptable. And you could like see the swallowing effect in his throat of, crap, she's not yelling at me. She's not being belligerent. She is calmly asserting that what I am proposing to her is unacceptable. I have to respond in a way that's going to resolve this. Because, if you blow up on him, he can just write you off. But and I remember you crossed your arms too. You were like, I don't find that acceptable. And he just immediately was like a toddler again, like, I don't know what to do.
Yes. And then magically, all of a sudden, there was another room with air conditioning. And I was like, oh, wonderful. Great.
He gave some excuse like the people that had reserved that hadn't confirmed the reservation or hadn't called. And he went on and on about how there was a fire and the internet was spotty or the internet was out and they were getting things by fax. So he didn't know how to contact us, which was also BS. And he went on and on about how, he had all of these problems that just made it so difficult. And as soon as you were like, I don't find that acceptable, he found a room that had AC. And you were like, so you can put us in a room with air conditioning? And he was like, yeah, I can make that happen for you.
Yeah.
So we got a room with AC. And we went and got our stuff out of the car. And there was a bunch of people in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Loitering and staring.
Yes.
And it was weird.
Yes.
And we were like, weird.
Can I just say that, when you are enculturated as a woman in a Southern culture, you learn certain superpowers, like how to cut someone down calmly, slowly, death by 1,000 cuts, or one cut. But with great power comes great responsibility. And I did use my power in this instance, but it did backfire.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we get up to the room. This is a Motel 6, right? So it's outside. We have to go upstairs. There's like a railing. And there's a light outside of each room, like a porch light. And there's a bunch of bugs. And the porch light's on. It's kind of that dusky period, past golden hour, where there's still light in the sky, but it's really dark. And it's like, it's nighttime. And the bugs are all flying. I remember M had the card and taps it so that we can get in. And I tried to rush in with like my bags. We had my dog. So we're trying to get all of our stuff in because the bugs were so close to the door and we didn't want to let them all into the room. How do I say this nicely? They had not renovated the room in a long period of time.
Yeah.
The carpet absolutely was put in that room maybe the year we were born.
Yeah.
It was like 1990s, like dark green carpeting.
Yeah.
It was obvious. We had stayed at many Motel 6s in our various road trips that we had done. And it was obvious to us that like it was the bedspread from like 2 remodels ago at other Motel 6s. And it was just all of the furniture was old and like had damage to it, had been repaired. Everything was just, we got what we paid for. It was cheap. And we got what we paid for.
It was one of those experiences where you walk in and everything's just a little bit off.
You like pulled the bedspread back and there was like some of the sheets had like cigarette burns in them and some like weird looking stains. My dog, we found her rolling on what I will call a rust colored stain on the floor.
A large rust colored stain.
Both of us were kind of just quiet, and I think we both were thinking a lot of things we weren't saying.
Yeah, so I pulled back bedspread because I was like, I want to sit down for a minute, take this all in, but my feet were cold, so I wanted to like slip my feet under the covers, and there were like little fruit flies under the bedspread, and I was like, but they were in the bed, and I was like, no, and there were cigarette burns through the sheets, and I was like, no. And at this point, the hair on the back of my neck is like raised. And I'm like, this is fucking weird. I'm like, okay, let's just use the bathroom, regroup, talk to Shane. So I'm in the bathroom. I'm like taking care of my bodily function. And I like look up and there's one of those like attic accesses in the top of the ceiling in the bathroom that is absolutely large enough for a person to come through. It looks like it was at one point painted shut. And it also looks like it was recently pried open from the attic side. And I'm like, interesting. Bugs, rust-colored stain, and now this. And I'm like, interesting. So I finish doing my business, walk back out to the bed, and I'm like, make the decision that I'm not going to sleep tonight. Fundamentally. And I'm texting Shane, and Shane is like, why don't you just leave? Ever the pragmatist, my husband. Like, he's like, why don't you just leave? He's like, if you don't feel safe there, leave.
So Em comes out of the bathroom, and I can tell she's like off-put. She's not really talking. She's very quiet. She's kind of puttering around, not like spending any significant time in any one spot. Neither of us have unpacked anything. And I'm like an immediate unpacker. Like, get my stuff out, shower, get into bed, be comfy. I'm laying on top of the bed because I don't want to get in the bed. And I'm itchy. My whole body is just itchy. It's almost like there's a buzzing under my skin. It feels like I'm itchy from like the inside out. And I'm so uncomfortable. I'm kind of just disassociating. So she comes out of the bathroom and she stands in front of my bed. And she was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because I can tell that this question is not like, you know, how are you feeling now that we've comfortably landed in our spot for the night? And she's like, have you seen the creepy attic thing in the bathroom? And I was like, no, I haven't been in the bathroom yet. And she was like, just go look. And when I see it, not only does it look like it's been opened from above, it looks like it's been like clawed at from inside the bathroom. Like, it looks like it has been open and closed multiple times and not in a like normal manner. It looks like it's been pried in both directions. Like, there's chunks of wood that have been bent in both directions. And I immediately come out and I'm like, don't like that. Nope. No. Like, this is how I die. Absolutely. That is the hole they crawl through to come in and kill us. Or that is the hole we have to crawl through to get out because they're going to come in the door and kill us, right? Like, I'm not sure. So that's the point at which I think both of our anxieties like sink.
Yeah.
And Em is just like, could you stay here? And I was like, no, not now. Especially knowing that you feel weird because I'm feeling weird, but I'm disassociating from it. Like, we both sit on the bed next to the phone and Em goes, I'm going to call downstairs and see if I can get our money back. There's bugs. That's a legitimate reason to leave. Neither of us are feeling it. We're not dying here. Like, we're getting the fuck out. And she grabs the phone, which, mind you, is like, again, like a 1990s phone with like the handle where it goes flat and the curly cord, and it's still got all the buttons. There's no like call the front desk button. And she picks it up and is holding it near her ear, but not at her ear. And she goes, how do I call the front desk? And I'm like, I don't know. And I lift the phone up, which is when both of us realized it's not even plugged in. There is no cord for this phone to be plugged in a phone line.
And I think at that point I turn to you and I go, Nikki, there's no dial tone.
Yes, because I realize it's not plugged in and you realize that there's no tone, and we both are like, holy shit. And that's when you lock in and you're like, I'm going to go down and try to get our money back, meet you at the car. And I was like, done, meet you at the car. I grabbed my bags, you took yours with you, and I grabbed my dog, and the door closes as you've left the room. And it occurs to me, oh fuck, we did the thing you don't do. We just separated. You never separate. I book it to the car and I'm walking down and that group of people that was watching us is watching me still. I'm watching their heads track me as I'm walking to go down the stairs. And I was like, just get to the fucking car. Just get to the fucking car. I got to the car. I threw all my shit in. I can see M. And I'm like, well, at least I can see her. At least I can see her. At least I can see her. I like turned the car on. You start walking back. I like pull out so you can get in. And I remember feeling relief that you were back with me at least. Because it was like every horror movie, right? The number one rule is don't separate. And the first thing we did to get out was separate.
Separate. Yep. So I went into the office and it was the guy that checked us in, but I like immediately locked it on the woman who was not the person that put us in the creepy murder room. And I was like, hi, I just checked in 30 minutes ago and I got put in a room and there are bugs under the bedspread. And like, I think if you can just give us our money back, we're going to move on. I get our money back. The guy that checked us in is like staring me the fuck down. It's fucking weird. And I book it out of that lobby area. Thank you, girlhood moment. We get in the car. Bye.
It's dark at this point.
Yeah.
So as we pull out of the only driveway to get in and out of this Motel 6 parking lot, my headlights illuminate to us, which we did not see upon arrival, that we are staying across the street from a cemetery. And both of us looked at each other and we were like, it's a fucking cemetery? Get the fuck out of here.
So that's the story of Winnemucca.
And we drove 3 hours to get to Reno because there was a massive fire on the Humboldt-Tiobe and kind of in between, which was really fun for me as a native Southern Californian. Like, I grew up in Southern California. You grow up in California, you know what wildfires are. My dear friend here, her South Carolinian heart, we're driving on I-80 and we ended up having to get rerouted at some point. It was not a direct route. It made it take much longer, but we get rerouted and the fire is literally on the other side of the road. Like, clearly the road operated as a fire line and a break. And there's a group of people standing around what I would describe as a contained fire. And M is looking out the window, total panic. She's like, the fire, why aren't they putting it out? And I was like, you can't really put it out. I was like, you see how they're all standing around it and it's kind of burning inward? And she's like, yeah. I was like, that's all you can do. Like, it was just so genuine, the panic of watching something like a wildfire and not understanding like how big wildfires get and how hot they burn. And the fact that we truly like, you know, people love to complain when we don't put a bunch of helicopters out there to drop water on wildfires without fully understanding that no matter how much water that helicopter brings, by the time it's above the fire, if it's too hot, it's just going to be vapor before it even hits the flame, you know? And it was a wake-up call for me that a lot of people don't understand how wildfire works, but it was just so, you were like, why are they not putting it out?
Well, even before that happened, there was this moment where we were coming up to the fire that I was like, oh, that's like flames. And you were like, yeah, it's the wildfire. And I was like, that's a wildfire? And it was just because even though I grew up down the road from, National Forest to like the Nantahala National Forest and not, kind of that area, there aren't really wildfires on that forest. I mean, there are now, but there wasn't when I was growing up. Wildfires were a West Coast thing. So that was my first time ever seeing one. And in my mind, wildfires were this thing with like really big flames and like, I don't know, insert your picture of like maybe hell here for like, blah, 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 So like that's me making a fire wiggle with my body. That's what that sound was. But it wasn't. It was just like this low to the ground kind of simmer. So it really was mind blowing. But when we pulled into Reno, I have never been so happy to see Reno in my life as I was that night. I was like, thank God for Reno.
So I have a very strange relationship with Reno. I have always thought of Reno as a place where dreams go to die. And now I think of Reno as like the most beautiful little town that saved us. We left Winnemucca to drive through flames that evoked images of hell to get away from Winnemucca. And we drove into Reno acting like it was like the streets were paved with gold. We were like, this is the most beautiful place. I love this. Look, this Motel 6 is beautiful. Look how clean it looks. Oh my God. You called. When we left Winnemucca, you were like, we got to find a room in Reno. I don't care where it is, right? It was total precursor to JMT. You know, we have to figure some shit out eventually. And it was, you found like 3 that had rooms, and you were looking at all the ratings and the reviews and the pictures of the room, and you called and you were like, we're driving in now, we're like 2.5 hours out, is someone going to be at the desk for us to get our stuff, like can we check in at this time? Like we were checking every box to make sure we were going to be fine. And I think Reno is known as like the biggest little city in the world or whatever, and we like drove in and we were like, oh, it's Reno.
Yeah.
Because previously Reno to us was like the last big city before we were truly in the mountains. Like we'd stop and get In-N-Out. There wasn't In-N-Out in Oregon at that point. We'd drive down from Oregon. Reno was our last city stop before we got to the mountains. And it was just like, Reno. Like, okay, there's a couple skyscrapers. There's a big hotel and a casino, whatever. Like, just get me to the mountains. And now we're like, savior.
Yeah. And even now when we like fly into Reno or drive through Reno, I'm like, oh, hey, girl.
Mm-hmm. Reno definitely is a safe space now in a way that it was not before. And I am happy to take a pause to find this and like edit it out. Can we find your Facebook post?
Oh my God, yes. Because I pop off in that Facebook post.
Also, that's when we found out that it was referred to as Winnemurder.
Or Winnemucca.
Yeah.
I think it's actually my partner's mom that called it Winnemucca.
I remember you wrote the Facebook post and you read it to me as you were posting it.
On July 6th, 2017, I posted, y'all, period. Adventure Buddy and I just bailed out of the sketchiest of sketchy Motel 6 situations. The extra drive into Reno was well worth the peace of mind. My advice, don't stay in Winnemucca and trust your gut. Now on to 4 to 5 hours of sleep before the adventure continues. So then I post a comment to myself saying, 3 hours of sleep, back on the road, adventure time. Once more for the folks in the nosebleeds. Clap emoji, trust, clap emoji, your instincts, clap emoji. So then people are like, what happened? So that's when I post in the comments. I say, so our plans changed a little bit, and instead of heading back to Idaho, we went to Nevada. When we reached the border, we were like, let's keep driving for a little while. A little while puts us in Winnemucca, Nevada, where there's Motel 6, which we've had good luck at in the past. Prior to arriving at Winnemucca, we'd made an online reservation via the Motel 6 website. So we get there, and it looks sketchy, but we're tired, so we go to check in. There's a dude behind the counter. Dude, okay, we have smoking rooms and non-smoking rooms without air conditioning. Which do you want? I had forgotten this.
I had forgotten about the smoking versus non-smoking.
Yes. Me, your website said nothing about that. Dude, well, the internet has been down for 4 days because of the wildfire on I-80. Me, really? Then how did you get our reservation? Dude, fax machine. Looks over shoulder, it said fax machine. Me, well, I don't find either of those options acceptable. Dude, well, we can transfer you to Reno. At this point, I turn to Adventure Buddy, and I'm like, what do you want to do? Long story short, we decide to stay. Dude says, okay, wait, I'm just going to cancel this room because it's late, and they haven't called in, it's non-smoking, and has air conditioning. Us. Awesome, thank you. And then I say, this should have been red flag 1. Like, he put us in this specific room. We're super pumped about this because bed, shower, air conditioning. But here's the thing. There's something that looks awfully like a blood stain on the floor. Like, you can see the splatter and then the puddle where it's stained. There are gnats everywhere, and as many as I kill, they keep multiplying. There's an old spunk stain on the sheets and moth holes in the duvet cover. There's a dead bug in the shower, and the toilet is disgusting, and there are gnats in the bed. All this I can somewhat deal with, not happily, but I can overlook a lot for a bed and air conditioning. But then I go into the bathroom, and as I'm doing my business, I'm looking around, and then I look up. Huge mistake. There's a crawl space or attic access that is creepy as fuck, and before y'all think I'm overreacting, it's not painted closed or anything, and it's obviously been opened and can be opened, and there are marks on it from where it's been moved. It's scratched, like this thing has been moved often. The sense of dread that I have been holding at bay just consumes me at this point, and I feel ill, like physically ill, and the survival instinct that has been ingrained in me as a woman is like, you need to leave. This is how you die, in a motel room in the middle of the Nevada desert on your 2-week wedding anniversary. Nikki, my adventure buddy, seems to be unaffected, but she's asking me every few minutes if I'm okay. Finally, she's like, "Are you okay with the bugs? Can you stay here?" Me. I can deal with the bugs. It's the creepy as fuck attic access. At this point, I had already reasoned that I wasn't going to sleep at that night because I was so skeeved out. Nikki, what creepy attic access? I explain. She goes to look at it, comes back, and is now skeeved out. Nikki, do you have a feeling? Me nods head slowly. Yep, and it's not good. Nikki, by the way, I'm really itchy, but only under my clothing. Not my bare skin that could easily be attacked by bugs, but everywhere else. We both look at the bed she's laying on. We decide if we can get our money back, we'll go to Reno. I pick up the phone to call the desk, and literally, we've been put in a creepy-ass room, and the phone doesn't work. And then there's more clapping in between the individual words emojis. Literally, the phone does not work. At the beginning of a horror movie with no way to call for help. At this point, we're both done. I run down to the lobby and pull the super sweet, highly manipulative Southern card to get us our money back. The interesting thing about this is that as I'm explaining to the super nice, oh, it was a young man behind the counter.
That's what I remembered.
I would have said it was a woman, different from the first dude. And I'm explaining to him about the bugs everywhere, even in the sheets. And this young man says, "Oh yeah, we get that a lot about that room." I'm so unamused at this point, but I get us a full refund and we peace out quickly, efficiently, and without regret. On the way out, we see that there's a cemetery across the street. My adrenaline drops and I'm like, holy shit. And this feeling of dread lifts and I'm flooded with relief. And I'm nauseous. I feel as though we have evaded the horror movie and that we've dodged a real and metaphysical bullet. Or knife. We do some Googling, and a lot of people die in Winnemucca. Like, a lot? There's a comment here that says, Winnemucca is often called Mucka, and for good reason. Lots of crime and drug activity everywhere. Not a place to stay unless you know someone that lives there. Lots of murders.
And both of us, as we left, both of us were like, we had a really long conversation about women being simultaneously told to and told not to listen to your gut. Like, yeah. We often get told that we're being too anxious or that we're jumping to conclusions or we're irrational, right? The trusting your gut thing, we're often framed as irrational. And in some cases, maybe we are being irrational because of how the world treats women. But we both were like, we had a spidey sense and neither of us was comfortable. And I don't care if we would have been totally fine. I'm glad that we left because everything pointed to not being fine.
Yes, absolutely.
Winnemucca, Nevada is generally considered a tight-knit, quiet town with mixed safety reviews. While it's often described by residents as a safe place to raise a family, it has a high overall crime rate relative to other small towns, often driven by its position as a transient stop on Interstate 80. The crime rate is higher than many similar-sized communities. Some reports indicate the overall crime rate is higher than 86% of Nevada cities, though others suggest it's slightly above national averages. Despite mixed safety perceptions, the violent crime rate has been reported as higher than average in some statistics. Property crime is the most frequent type of crime. A large portion of crime is associated with transient traffic passing through, and some concerns exist regarding a growing transient workforce related to local mining operations. Yeah, looking at just Googling Winnemucca dangerous crime statistics, the areavibes.com says there's 57 violent crimes in Winnemucca, equivalent to 694 per 100,000 individuals, higher than the national average by 93.2%. Wow. And then, I don't know how to pronounce this, Eufy, EUFY.com, says being one of the safest cities in Nevada, Winnemucca only reported 166 total crimes, having a small population of 8,216 people. That doesn't feel like a small number if there's 8,000 people and there was 166 crimes.
Truly.
So we survived Winnemucca.
Yeah, we did.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut. And then we lived to do Half Dome.
We did. We lived to do Half Dome and again feel as though we may die. Half Dome, Winnemucca, never again.
Never again.
Thanks for listening. We appreciate your support in this retelling of our chaotic adventure. We love to hear from y'all, so reach out on social media at yitheryonderpod or send us an email at yitheryonderpod@gmail.com. Find us on your favorite listening platform, and please rate, review, and subscribe because it really does help. Don't forget to check the show notes for resources and helpful links. And if you'd like more content, subscribe on your favorite membership platform. Info's available on our website, yitheryonderpod.com. We've got weekly blogs from each of us, some planning resources from our trip, with tips on what we do differently, and some other fun bonus content. We truly appreciate you joining us on this great adventure. Until next time.